When the Great Library of Alexandria burned, the sky itself seemed to collapse into ash. The night glowed orange, torches snapped in the wind, and every scroll that once held the memories, dreams, and discoveries of civilizations curled into smoke. People remember the fire. They remember the flames, but they do not remember the girl who ran through them, clutching a single scroll to her chest as if she were holding the soul of the world. Her name was Amara. She was young, perhaps too young to carry the burden of knowledge that had been entrusted to her. She was a scribe, one of those quiet souls who lived in the shadows of scholars, copying words she often did not understand, preserving ideas she could only hope to one day grasp. But on the night the library fell, she became something else, the last living keeper of a text that should never have survived. The scroll she carried was not famous, not decorated, not gilded in gold. It was wrapped in plain linen cloth, worn and softened by decades of secret hands. Yet inside it lived the banned writings of Queen Arsinoe, a philosopher-queen whose ideas were so radical, so dangerous, that kings outlawed them, priests cursed them, and generals swore they would burn them out of existence. Her teachings dared to question the ownership of power, the nature of freedom, and the lies that empires tell to survive. For years that scroll had been hidden deep within the restricted wing of the library. Its existence was known only to a handful of scholars, and to Amara's mentor, Lysandros, the man who placed it into her trembling hands as the flames consumed the marble halls around them. "Save the truth," he whispered, coughing smoke, his fingers shaking. "Save it, even if the world burns for it." Amara did not feel brave. She did not feel destined. All she felt was the weight of the scroll and the heat of the fire chasing her footsteps. But she ran anyway. Through fallen columns and collapsing shelves, through shouts and sparks, through the screams of men who died trying to protect words. By dawn, the library was gone. The once shining center of human knowledge was now a blackened skeleton. Smoke curled upward like grieving spirits, ash drifted down like snow. And in the chaos, while soldiers seized surviving scholars, while officials scrambled to rewrite the story of what happened, Amara disappeared into the crowded docks, carrying a past the world believed dead. Her journey began with fear. She boarded a creaking trade ship, hiding among crates of spices and papyrus rolls. She slept under woven nets, listening to sailors gossip about the fall of the library, each story worse than the last. Some said invaders burned it, others said the king himself ordered the purge. But Amara knew the truth. Knowledge that threatens power is always marked for destruction. She kept the scroll close, afraid to open it, afraid of what it would mean, afraid of what it would demand from her. When the ship reached Cyprus, she slipped into the markets, her cloak pulled low over her face. Soldiers patrolled the streets with scrolls bearing her mentor's seal. They were hunting the scholars, they were hunting the forbidden texts, and she realized with a tightening throat, they were hunting her. But Amara was not alone for long. Her first pursuer was a man named Cassian, a mercenary with a scar across his jaw and a reputation forged in battlefields. He had been paid to retrieve the scroll, though he did not yet know its value. He tracked her through narrow alleys, watching the way she clutched her satchel, the way her eyes darted towards soldiers, the way she walked like someone who carried something priceless. But when he confronted her in a quiet courtyard, sword drawn, he didn't see a criminal. He saw a terrified girl, shaking, trying to shield something not with armor, but with her body. "Give me the scroll," he said. "If this scroll falls into the wrong hands, kingdoms will rise and fall overnight." It was meant to scare him, but instead it intrigued him. For reasons he could not explain, he lowered his sword. For reasons she could not understand, he let her go. And for reasons neither of them yet knew, He followed her, not as a hunter, but as a shadow. Days passed, and Amara journeyed from port to port seeking someone, anyone who could help her decipher the scroll. She had never read it. She feared what she would find. But curiosity grows like fire. And eventually, beneath an olive tree at sunset, she unwrapped the cloth and finally opened it. Inside were words written in a bold, elegant hand. Ideas that burned almost as fiercely as the flames that had destroyed the library. Arsinoe spoke of a world where rulers served the people, not the other way around. She wrote about the shackles of fear, about the lies woven into the fabric of empires, about the quiet revolution that begins in the mind before it spills out into the streets. The scroll was not merely dangerous. It was revolutionary. As she read, footsteps approached. Cassian emerged from the shadows, not with a weapon, but with a question. Why protect this? Why risk your life for ink and parchment? She looked up at him, her voice steady for the first time. Because ideas outlive fire, because truth outlives kings, and because if I let this die, 1,000 futures die with it. Cassian had never believed in causes, only in survival. But something in her conviction struck him harder than any blade. He sat beside her, and for the first time, she did not move away. But danger has its own patience. Across the Mediterranean, another man hunted her. Serapion, a scholar who believed the scroll belonged to him. He was brilliant, driven, and ruthless. He had lost everything in the fire. His home, his reputation, his status. To him, the scroll was not a symbol of freedom. It was the key to reclaiming the respect he had been denied. It was his legacy, not hers. He knew Amara by name. He knew her habits. He knew her fear. And he intended to take the scroll back by any means necessary. For weeks he followed her trail, always one step behind. And when he finally cornered her in a quiet cliffside village, the confrontation was inevitable. You think you can protect something like this? He hissed, his voice dripping with contempt. You were a scribe, a copyist, nothing more. This scroll is mine. Amara trembled, but Cassian stepped forward, placing himself between them. She carries it now, and she chooses what becomes of it. Serapion laughed, a cold, bitter sound. You think she understands what she holds? This scroll can topple thrones. It can ignite rebellion. She is a child playing with the spark that can burn nations. Amara's voice cut through the air like a blade. If the truth makes nations tremble, then they were never strong to begin with. The wind howled across the cliffs. For a moment, none of them moved. And then Serapion lunged. The struggle was fierce but brief. Cassian, hardened by war, disarmed the scholar and sent him sprawling into the dust. Serapion fled, humiliated, but not defeated. He would return. Men driven by ego always do. Amara and Cassian fled again, crossing deserts where the sun cracked the earth, crossing seas where storms roared like gods, crossing kingdoms where whispers of rebellion stirred like leaves in the wind. With each step, the scroll weighed heavier, not as a burden, but as a responsibility. Word of the scribe with the forbidden scroll spread quietly through scholars, peasants, rebels, merchants. Some called her a threat, others a hope. Many prayed she would fail. But some, those who had tasted the cruelty of tyrants, began to believe in her. Her journey was no longer about survival. It was about choice. When she finally reached the ancient city of Pergamum, where a hidden circle of philosophers awaited her, she stood before them with trembling hands. These were the kinds of men her mentor had once worked beside, men who had dedicated their lives to the preservation of knowledge. They asked her one question: "What do you want done with the scroll?" She looked down at the parchment that had survived fire, war, and pursuit. She saw her mentor's eyes in her memory. She saw the flames that had destroyed the library. She saw the future that Arsinoe had dreamed of. and she knew. I want it shared. Not hidden, not hoarded, copied, spread, given to anyone brave enough to read it. A silence fell. Then, "This will change the world," one scholar whispered. She nodded, then led it. In the months that followed, the scroll was copied in secret rooms lit by lanterns. New scribes risked their lives to carry those copies across continents. Ideas traveled faster than armies. Whispers turned into discussions, discussions turned into movements, and movements, as history has always shown, turn into revolutions. Amara remained a wanderer, never claiming credit, never seeking glory. She watched